Hey everybody, it's Charlie from DM Moto, and a few years ago I had a GMC Yukon Denali test vehicle. I think it was a Denali Ultimate. It might have been right before they started doing the Ultimate trim of Denali, which I have a separate side note rant about that. But I was appalled by the pricing of that Yukon. It was nearly $100,000. And I liked the truck overall. I mean, it's a very capable vehicle. The Yukon, the Suburban, the Tahoe, the Escalade, they're all nice to drive and very functional, but they're body-on-frame trucks. They're made for towing and hauling and doing work. So yes, I understand that they've become these sort of status symbols and luxury icons, but you're driving around a truck and paying nearly $100,000 for it. You're getting the ride quality of a truck, you're getting the fuel economy of a truck, and you're getting the price tag of a truck. So I didn't care much for it. I pretty much said, don't go out and buy that car. Either buy a cheaper version of a Yukon or a Suburban or something if you really need the space, or spend more and get the Escalade. This is why you shouldn't be buying the Yukon, most people, because you can do nearly everything that you're gonna do in that Yukon with this Acadia. And now GMC is giving you the Denali Ultimate trim of the Acadia as well. This one coming in at about $67,000 as opposed to nearly $100,000 for the Yukon, but it can hold just as many people decently as comfortably, and it can still tow up to 5,000 pounds, still has some space to put your stuff, but it's so much nicer to drive and so much more affordable. So today I'm going to go through my pros and cons with you after spending a week with the Acadia Denali Ultimate, talk about what it is, what it isn't, and give you my final thoughts. So again, taking a little bit of a look around before we dive into the pros and cons. All the seats up right now, 7-seater configuration in this one. Still have room for suitcases. You still have a storage room under here. This is the all-wheel drive model and still getting this. You've got metal tie-down hooks. You've got a place for a cargo cover should you want it. You can power fold this third row down. Well, theoretically speaking. If I fold those, then does these fold? Now, see, this was happening earlier as well. This is getting stuck. Not exactly encouraging, but theoretically, with everything folded, you still have a ton of room in here. I really wanted to show third row down, second row up. Is there something blocking these seats? Yeah, so you gotta have this seat scooted up. Gotta move. There we go. So if we have that there, then that goes all the way down. So then you've got a whole ton of space for all sorts of things and can still take 4 people in comfort. Let's bring this third row back up. Oh, do you have to keep holding these? I guess you do. Oh, now that one is stuck. See, it would have been nice for GM to have some sort of consideration for this. There we are. And up we go. Let's power down this lift gate. Come up here. One touch this seat forward. Look at that. GM does a great job at kind of ingress and egress. They're so well versed in their family haulers. And then as a 5'10" human being, I've got knee room, I've got headroom, I've got air vents blowing right on me, I've got a USB-C port, I've got cup holders and places to put my things. Plenty fine to put teenagers back here if you needed to. And then they can scoot themselves right up, and you see this very nicely laid out second row with climate controls, heated seats, adjustable seats in all sorts of directions. There it is. Recline way back. You got armrests. Fantastic place to spend time, especially with this panoramic sunroof. And then we come into the front, and you're not missing out on anything that the Yukon has. You've got beautifully upholstered cross-stitch seats. You've got massaging seats. You've got Super Cruise. You've got places to put all of your stuff. You've got a Bose Performance Series audio system, of which we have a review separately linked below. You've got wood grain. It's gonna make you feel like you are in a Yukon Denali, but again, the car is gonna drive that much better and you're going to get better fuel economy, and you're going to pay less at the dealership. But that's not all to say that this car is all sunshine and rainbows for me, so let's get into my pros and cons. For the first con, we got to pop up the hood to show you, I guess we don't really have to, but you might as well, the probably biggest downside of the Acadia as opposed to the Yukon, and that is the engine. All Acadias are powered by a stout 2.5 liter inline-4 turbocharged engine. Now we're making well over 300 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. On paper, yeah, not a big deal. And there are plenty of vehicles in this size and in this category that are going to turbocharged 4-cylinders. However, GM used to make a really good V6 engine in a lot of these sort of cars. We're not getting that anymore. I really liked it when it was in things like the Colorado, the Canyon. I think, yeah, they even put it in the Silverado and that sort of thing. I'd love to still have that V6. We'll see when we're out on the road. This engine motivates the Acadia fine, but for a vehicle that feels and comes across as luxurious as it is, the engine doesn't fit that luxury character. And if you're coming out of something like, a BMW X5 with the B48 or something like that, you're going to be like, why am I hearing this engine so much? Why is it making that noise? Unfortunately, that's normal with the 2.5 turbo here. And I would love if this engine proves to be remarkably reliable over the years, but I just don't have confidence in this engine not having some sort of reliability issues once you cross 100,000 miles. But hey, I'm happy to be proved wrong. I'm going to continue on with this. Let's start up the engine. That's just not really the sound that you want to hear out of your more burly vehicle like this. And for a brand that still gives you 2 different V8 engines in the Yukon, you're telling me they couldn't have figured out some way to give us the 3.6 V6 in here and then at least have some degree of grunt and character? Instead, you have to listen to that while you drive around your $67,000 luxury vehicle. The next con, this might seem kind of mild, I suppose, depending on your perspective, but for every trim of the Acadia, white is the only color that doesn't cost extra. This downfall metallic blue, which I think is very pretty, costs about $500, and some of the other colors are even more expensive. Now, again, GMC is not the only brand to do that. It's just kind of a shame that, okay, you can't even give me black, or you can't even give me maybe a gray, a black, and a white for free. I mean, the Denali Ultimate even is already coming in, $67,000. You can't toss in a few extra free colors there. So it's minor, but a little bit of a bummer. Next, this one, you're going to have to work with me a little bit here. But there is a sneaky cheapness to this car. And this is the case with a lot of American vehicles. And especially when you kind of get into this category where this is not a luxury car, but it's kind of trying to come across and masquerade as a luxury vehicle. There are elements like, oh, it's got massaging seats and it's got this nice leather and everything. Oh, it's luxury. But then you have aspects like no auto up windows on anything except the driver's seat. So if you pull the window switches up for the back windows or for this one, they don't automatically raise up. And then there's the using everything that, okay, yes, it has the functionality, but you start to kind of realize, oh, there's still classic GM cheapness in this car. It's just hidden quite well. And again, that's not a deal breaker for me, but if you're cross-shopping this against something like a Mazda CX-90, or you're cross-shopping it against an Acura, or maybe a CPO BMW or something like that, it's certainly missing that extra refinement that a luxury vehicle should have, and some of those features that you might miss on the spec sheet that should be in there. Next con, getting inside here, I'm going to turn the infotainment screen on. This is as bright as it gets in the daytime, and I have dug around in this system trying to brighten up the screen. Cannot find a way to make it any brighter, and it doesn't help that it's a very black-based system. You can see this is what it looks like with the navigation. It's just borderline usable, and I don't understand why it doesn't get any brighter. Now, you do have a brightness selector over here for the screens, but that only applies to when it's nighttime. You've got the headlights on. During the day, let's see if I actually turn the headlights on manually. Then can I adjust the brightness? No. During the daytime, I have not been able to find a way to brighten up the screen. If I go here to settings and display, there's mode for daytime and nighttime, light and dark modes, essentially. But what does that say? Driver display. Yeah, okay, the car is off. There's no way to adjust the brightness, and that's very strange to me. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know in the comments. But I have dug through this because we actually shot a separate how-to video on how to use the screens and technology and infotainment on this car. Can't be found. The last con on the Acadia here is it's the cost. I mean, $67,000, there's no getting around it. It's a lot. But it's less about the cost particularly, and more the fact that you're paying for the badging and for that Denali nameplate. GMC's done a fantastic job in marketing the Denali brand. It should be studied over the last 15 years or so, how well they've differentiated that nameplate. There are joke videos out there right now about saying like, oh, I drive a Denali. It's like, what model Denali? Oh, it's a Denali. No, it's not a Denali. It's a Yukon, or it's a Sierra, or it's Acadia, etc. But jokes aside, they've done a fantastic job at kind of marketing this upper near luxury, rugged, stylish kind of brand. I mean, I could see them having Denali clothing at this point. It's practically like Eddie Bauer or LL Bean or something like that. But just because the car has that cachet doesn't mean it's that much nicer than a non-Denali trim. And I said similar things when I was reviewing the Yukon of, okay, just go out and get yourself an Elevation or an SLT or something like that. It has all of the same functionality, maybe missing a few of the niceties, but you're saving a ton of money. I built out an AT4 version of the Acadia. So that's got the all-wheel drive. In fact, it's a more advanced all-wheel drive system. It's a little bit lifted up, some more aggressive tires, different suspension, and I put the heated and ventilated seats in there. I put Super Cruise, pretty much all the bells and whistles you could get, and you're looking at about $60,000. So you're saving $7,000 as opposed to this Denali Ultimate. And the Denali Ultimate's pretty much only getting you, from what I can tell, massaging seats, a slightly nicer Bose sound system, and all of the badging and the little details and Easter eggs in here. So is it a nicer car? Sure. Is it a $7,000 nicer car? And probably much more than just getting a well-equipped Elevation model? No, it isn't. And is it a nicer car than a Mazda CX-90 or a Palisade Calligraphy or even the top trims of the Toyota Grand Highlander? Maybe more so than the Toyota, but other than that, I mean, I would, from a luxury standpoint, I'd still be picking the Hyundai or the Mazda, especially the Mazda. Now, I'm not saying the Mazda is a better car. I'm just saying if you're paying for this Denali Ultimate, it's not as luxurious as those. Coming back here static for my pros, and the first one is the styling. First of all, I love that they've made it look like a Yukon. The headlight design, the grille, everything. It looks like a Sierra. It looks like a Yukon. And I think that GMC's design language and kind of family language like this is very attractive in general. I like the wheels. I think they're a bit large, but I like the way they look. And then the rear is a little bit simpler, but also attractive. And then the interior styling. I love the color combination of this brown and the black and the wood tones and the chrome. They haven't included any piano black plastic in here, which is so smart. This is all wood, which is going to age much better than piano black plastic would. It's a coherent design. The Denali Ultimate gets fun things like this little Ultimate badging with the coordinates of Mount Denali. You've got impressions for sort of the elevation patterns in the seats and the doors. Nice speaker grille covers for the Bose Performance Series. Audio system, the dorsals. All of the design and styling looks fantastic. I think it looks great. And then that also leads into our next pro is the general layout and the form and functionality balance in this car. I review a lot of vehicles, and a perfect one, another GM car that we had last week, the Silverado. That Silverado, the center console was taken up by a giant shifter that didn't feel good to use, whereas here in the Acadia, we have a column shifter, which frees up the center console to have large cup holders that fit a 32-ounce metal bottle, all around. And then this large center area here with a wireless device charger and some USB ports and places to put things. Tons of storage up under here. Again, truck did not have. Big center console with a removable lid. And then there are some elements that I would like to see some extra storage, like a lot of vehicles have a little tray right here that either pops open or just allows you to put things, but at least here in the Acadia Denali Ultimate, we've got nice wood grain and a coherent, flat, attractive design, so it sort of works with the beauty aspects of the car. Despite this being an absolutely giant 15-inch screen, there's a nice symmetry to the center, the volume knob's right in the center, and then they did this really nice balance of physical controls here while also giving you touchscreen functionality. So if I turn the car on, you can see we've got touch buttons that are always up for our climate, but these ones are also controllable with physical controls, and that's great. I can hop in, adjust my fan speed very intuitively by just reaching down and not paying much attention. But then if I want things like my heated or ventilated seats or AC controls, they're always there, they're just built into the screen. And then again, coming onto the back, I mentioned earlier that the seats are very easy to move around. Aside from the third row getting caught coming up and down when these seats aren't in the right position, everything else works really, really well. The doors open very wide. You're getting car seats in and out. The seat belts are incredibly long, and if you're somebody who puts car seats in here regularly, you'll know how valuable that is. So the design team really nailed the balance between making this an attractive car and making it a functional car. Next pro, the infotainment system. I love GM's Google-based infotainment systems. They work well. They've got nice voice commands because it's just using Google Assistant built in. You've got full Google Maps. You've got support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both wired and wireless, at least on the gas cars. There's been rumors that GM is going to get rid of that for the gas cars, just like they have with the EVs. If that happens, I will be extremely disappointed and would probably push me away from purchasing a GM product in the future. And it'd be less reason to buy this one, because right now you can see my phone projection has come up very nicely. I still have my climate controls. I've still got kind of my hot toggles. It all works very, very well, and it looks good. They've built it in nicely. It's got good resolution, decently responsive. It's not the snappiest system on the market, but it's still very functional. Next pro, the general quietness inside this cabin. Even at highway speeds, this is a surprisingly refined and quiet place in here. They've got laminated glass, the kind of two double pane glass here on the fronts at least, and they've got active sound cancellation as well to kind of minimize road noise, drivetrain noise, wind noise, etc. So it's a nicely quiet vehicle in here, and I think that should be rewarded. The next pro out here on the highway is Super Cruise. And I say it in just about every review of a vehicle that I have with Super Cruise, but it is the best semi-autonomous driving functionality out on the market. Now, to be fair, I haven't spent time with Tesla's autopilot recently. Tesla doesn't do media vehicles generally, but outside of that, Super Cruise is a fantastic way to drive on the highway. Let me show you here. Get up to speed. Cruise on, set, and super cruising. Now, it's actually watching my eyes, lets me know with this little green thing right here, and as long as I'm facing forward, I don't have to have my hands on the wheel. This car will drive along on the highway for me, it'll change lanes for me, or I can tell it to do it automatically just by clicking right there, and it's changing lanes. Super Cruise works so well, better than Blue Cruise, better than any other competitor on the market that I've tested. And on top of how well it works, it also works while towing. It's the only semi-autonomous driving functionality that works with towing. So if you're taking a camper out, if you're taking a boat somewhere, you're going somewhere far away and you've got something on the back, you can still use Super Cruise. We used it with the Chevy Suburban, did like 800 miles or so towing jet skis, and it was such a nice way to drive. And then on top of that, GMC is offering it with every trim of the Acadia. Now it comes standard on this Denali Ultimate, but you can get it even on the base elevation trim for a few thousand. I think it's like $3,500 or so. Fantastic. I would highly, highly recommend it. My last pro with the Acadia is the trim structuring. I think GMC's done a really nice job. There are some brands out there that are very confusing with, okay, too many different trims and too many different packages. No, GMC actually makes it pretty simple. The base car is the Elevation. That's going to give you the functionality of the Acadia without too many of the bells and whistles. Now, you can add some in with packaging, but essentially it's the affordable option, and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of families. Then you have the AT4. That's the rugged one. I have a sister-in-law who's considering an Acadia AT4 because they live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. They get a ton of snow. She wants the more advanced all-wheel drive system. She wants the extra ground clearance, so that would make sense for her. And then you've got Denali, and you've got Denali Ultimate. Now, I don't love how they've launched Denali Ultimate. For me, Denali should just mean it's the nicest trim. GM has this, they've done this before. They did it with Cadillac, where, okay, you had Blackwing, or not Blackwing, sorry, you had V. And Cadillac V models were starting to differentiate themselves as essentially BMW M cars. You know, they were the top level performance. Well, then they came out with V Blackwing, and all of a sudden V became less relevant. Now I understand that pretty much every brand is doing that. Now you've got M Comp, and you've got AMG S and SE and everything. But anyway, getting back to this, I do think it's kind of a shame that now Denali matters less because there's Denali Ultimate, it's on top. But either way, I like that there's only 4 trims, and it's a little easier to understand, okay, this is what I'm getting if I get this trim. So, my thoughts on the Acadia. I stand by what I said at the beginning of the video. I think this makes so much more sense than a Yukon for so many people. If you're not doing heavy-duty towing or carrying a ton of people and stuff regularly, the Acadia, man, the Acadia makes so much more sense than the Yukon. I would so much more happily have this vehicle than a Yukon. But it does still have its flaws, and it is still much more expensive than, again, Mazda CX-90, Toyota Grand Highlander, Hyundai Palisade. And in fact, for many families, I would actually go with the Hyundai Santa Fe. The Santa Fe, you can get an XRT trim, you can get it with a hybrid, you can get it with a V6, I think. Sorry, maybe not Santa Fe, I'm thinking of Palisade for that. The Palisade you can still get with a naturally aspirated V6. But the Santa Fe still gives you a third row, and the interior layout is just so awesome. So there are a lot of cars that I think are a better buy than the Acadia. However, I understand that a lot of people want to go with the Acadia either for the Denali, understandable, or because they live in an area where you don't have easy access to a Honda dealership to go out and get a passport or something, or I guess a Pilot would be the more direct competitor here, or you don't want to gamble with a Korean brand or something like that, so you don't want to go with a Hyundai. I get it. Maybe you've owned many GMCs in the past, you have a relationship with your dealer, and you want something in this class. I totally think that makes sense, and I would not be disappointed to own this vehicle. I like it. So I am genuinely curious as to where I'm going to be putting it here on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. Current leaders of the Daily Motor Leaderboard: Ford F-150, Hyundai Santa Fe, and Honda Passport. Where are some of the competitors to this car? I drove the CX-90 and CX-70 last year, and that was pretty far down. Grand Highlander, haven't driven this year. Explorer, sitting there at 20th place. That was a Platinum. I like this better than the Explorer. I don't think we've driven too many other vehicles in this category, though. Let's get it on here. 2026. GMC. Acadia, Denali Ultimate. I will say, I would get the AT4 trim. To me, the Denali Ultimate's cool, but it doesn't feel luxurious enough from a real usability. It kind of feels like, have you ever been in one of those new condos that is freshly built, but it's in a whole set of condos, and it looks really nice, but then once you start opening drawers and wiggling cabinets, you realize, oh, these don't feel very nice. They're pretty cheap, and then you notice that the floorboards maybe don't flush up nicely against the cabinetry and stuff. There's just, the more time you spend in it, you realize, okay, this isn't quite a luxury product. So I would get the AT4, but I think this is going right here. We're just above the Chevy Suburban and just below the Toyota Crown Signia. 18th place, which is pretty fair out of 38 vehicles. So top half, it's good. It's good. I like it. I don't love it. but it's solid. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the GMC Acadia, we've got dedicated reviews of the Bose audio system, dedicated fuel economy test, and dedicated breakdown of the infotainment system. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.